Most people think about Facebook ad testing as a creative problem. They think, if I just find the right hook, the right creator, the right angle, everything will work. That is partially true. Creative matters enormously, but there's a mathematical reality underneath creative testing that most people never think about. And if you don't understand this math, you will keep burning money on testing no matter how good your creative is. The number I want to talk about today is 30%. Specifically, why you need a 30% hit rate for ABO testing to be profitable. And more importantly, how to engineer that 30% before you spend a single dollar. When you run ABO testing, which is the approach for creative testing that I prefer, and I will explain why in a moment, you're giving every concept a dedicated budget. Let's say $100 per day per ad set. You run each test for 5 days. That's $500 per concept at the very best scenario. Now, let's say you're testing 10 concepts simultaneously. That's $5K in testing budget in a week. If your hit rate is 10%, meaning only 1 out of 10 concepts exceeds your target ROAS, that one winner needs to generate enough profit to cover 4.5K you spent on 9 losers. Plus, it also needs to generate positive return on those $500 you spend on the winner itself. This is a very high bar. In most cases, a single winner cannot generate enough profit quickly enough to cover the losers from the 9 failed. You're in a negative cash flow cycle from the start. In that case, probably it makes sense to use CBO. Now let's change that rate to 30%. This is 3 out of 10 concepts. You spend 3.5K on losers, 1.5K on winners. The 3 winners generate enough profit that covers the losers and produce a negative net positive return. The math works, and at the 40% hit rate, 4 out of 10, the math works very comfortable. You have a profitable testing cycle that generates winners faster than it burns budget. The 30% threshold is not arbitrary. It's the break-even point for a sustainable ABO testing operation. Below 30%, you're losing money on testing. Above 30%, testing pays for itself and generates a pipeline of winners. So the question is not how do I find better creative, the question is how do I engineer a 30% hit rate. Before we get into the solution, let me explain why most ad accounts have hit rates well below 30%. The most common reason is that people are testing the wrong things. They're testing creative variation, different hooks, different creators, different formats, without first validating whether the underlying angle resonates with the market. Think about it this way. You have 10 concepts and all 10 are based on the same weak angle. Let's say generic before and after angle that every other competitor is also using. But none of them ends up working. Your hit rate is 0 or 10% regardless of how good the creative execution is. The second most common reason is a weak offer. I have seen ad accounts where creative is excellent, all angles are well researched, but the offer is so weak that even the interested customers do not convert. The hit rate is low not because the ads are bad, but because the landing page is not closing the sale. The third reason is poor angle research. Most people decide on angle based on intuition or what they think people care. I think customers care about X. They do not systematically mine customer data to identify what customers actually care about. The results is angles are based on the assumption rather than the evidence. So here's the framework for engineering a 30% hit rate before you spend a single dollar. Step 1. Validate the offer first. Before you test any creative, make sure your offer is competitive. Run a simple test. Take your current offer and test it against 2 or 3 alternatives. Keep the creatives identical, just change the offer. But what constitutes a good offer? A free gift with a high perceived value can increase conversion rate by 30 to 50%. A properly executed money back guarantee can increase conversion rate by 10 to 20%. Price anchoring, my favorite. Showing 3 options instead of 1 can increase your AOV and as well as your conversion rate 20 to 40%. If your offer is weak, no creative will compensate for it. Fix the offer first. Step number 2. Mine customer data for angles. Do not guess what customers care about. Read every review or your product page. Read the comments on your ads. Read the comments on your existing post. You can obviously use AI to do all of this. It's going to be faster and probably better. Look for patterns. What problem did customer have before buying? What benefit did they experience after buying? What language do they use to describe both? These patterns, they are your angles. The language your customer use should be your ad copy. You're not inventing anything. You're reflecting back what customers have already told you. I have a specific process for this. I read every single review, or actually AI reviews, and tags it with one of the 6 types. Problem aware, solution aware, social proof, curiosity, benefit driven, or authority. Then I count the frequency of each angle. The most frequently mentioned angles are the ones that I test first. Step number 3. Write a hypothesis before launching. Every concept you test, write down the angle, why you believe it will resonate, the specific customer segment you're targeting, and the success metric. This forces you to think critically about whether the angle is actually grounded in your customer data or whether you're just guessing. If you cannot write a compelling hypothesis for a concept, do not test it. Step number 4, diversify angle types. Do not test 5 variations of the same angle. Test 5 completely different angles at the start, because each angle would reach a different segment of your potential customer base. If you test 5 variations of the same angle and they all fail, you learn that one angle does not work. If you test 5 different angles and 3 of them works, you have 60% hit rate and the 3 different customer segments to scale into. Step number 5, match the creative format to the product type. A lot of people lose hit rate unnecessarily. Video is the right format for problem-solving products like supplements, skincare, software, anything that requires education for purchase. Static images, on the other side, the right format for self-explanatory products like apparel, jewelry, home decor. If you're running static images for a supplement brand, your hit rate will probably be significantly low because you cannot educate the customers how good and how much they need a product with just the image unless they're in a product aware stage, or you're running an advertorial where the image just sells the click and advertorial educates them. So you should switch to video and watch your hit rate improve. Let me give you a quick diagnostic framework. If your hit rate is below 30%, here's how to identify the cause. First of all, if your hit rate is below 10%, the problem is almost certainly the offer or the product market fit. Creative quality is irrelevant if the offer is not compelling or there's no genuine demand for the product. If your hit rate is 10 and 20%, the problem is likely the angles. You're testing concepts that are not grounded in customers' data. Go back to the review mining process and identify the angles that could work. If your hit rate is between 20 and 30%, the problem is likely the creative execution or the format mismatch. Your angles are right, but the execution is not really converting. So test different creators, different hooks, different formats. If the hit rate is above 30% but you cannot scale, the problem is not in testing, the problem is in the scaling process. You have winning concepts, but you're not moving them to the scaling campaign efficiently, or you're not scaling them right away in the testing. This is a different problem. It's a medium buying problem. So here's the bottom line. A 30% hit rate is not a creative challenge, it's an engineering challenge. It's not about systematically validating your offer, mining the data for angles, writing hypotheses before testing, diversifying your angle types, and matching creative format to the product type. If you do all 5 of these things before you launch a single test, your hit rate will be above 30%, I guarantee you. I have seen this constantly work across dozens of ad accounts. The math will take care of the rest. If you want to go deeper on the angle research process, I have a video on channel on that. If on the other side you want me to implement this process in your ad account and scale your ad account, and you're spending at least $50,000 a month on your Facebook ads, apply for a free audit below. If you're not there yet and you just want to learn more about Facebook ads, like and subscribe. See you next week.